everyone. Welcome to those who haven't been here before, and welcome back to those who have watched before. Thanks for coming again. My name is Aaliyah Langley, and as the title of this video suggests, we are going to go over the books I read in May 2024. So just to begin, I did 3 books this month, which this is the fewest amount of books I read in a month in a couple of years, I think. It just kind of happened this way. I have another book that I'm still reading, actually, this biography on Queen Elizabeth II that I just am taking my time on. I had other things going on, and I didn't really do too much reading. But I say that, though, in 3 books in a month, it still would be a lot for some people. But anyway, just like I say at the top. And the thing is, too, with the books, 2 of the 3 books are books that I finished in like a day and a half. So it really wasn't a huge month for reading this past May, but I will go over the books as I always do. So the first book I read in May of 2024 was Whoopi Goldberg's If Someone Says You Complete Me, Run, Whoopi's Big Book of Relationships. A little synopsis on it. From the provocative and hilarious EGOT winner, bestselling author, and host of The View, Whoopi Goldberg comes the perfect antidote to all those outdated relationship advice books in the world, weighing in on why marriage isn't for everybody and how the life you want shouldn't be the life everyone expects you to have. Whoopi Goldberg has been an electrifying, envelope-pushing public figure of many stripes. Acclaimed actor, comedian, singer, songwriter, author, political activist, and talk show host. Now Whoopi will speak openly about why marriage isn't for everyone, how being alone can be satisfying, and how what's most important is understanding who you are and what makes you happy. Wise, funny, and conversation starting, Whoopi's message is sure to resonate with the millions of people who struggle with relationships every day. Goldberg says, I get to hear from a lot of different people about relationships, and it's got me trying to figure out on why the divorce rate is so high. It occurred to me that, one, as someone who has done it badly often, I might have some insight. It's hard to really know the other person's agenda, but if someone says you complete me, run. So this is a book, this came out over 10 years ago, about 10 years ago. It came out in 2015. And the line, if someone says you complete me, run, I feel like I might have heard it from her first. Potentially, I do watch The View, but it's something, like I've heard of the book, I heard of that phrase, and that alone was kind of like, oh, I want to read it and kind of see what she has and see what she says. I figured it was a shorter book. It's 220 pages about on Kindle, and like I said in the kind of synopsis there, Whoopi is a comedian, so I knew about kind of be like a quick little fun read to kind of get some insight and some wisdom. But in terms of like the statement, if someone says you complete me, run, I've always believed that, as I said, and every time I hear people say like, oh, this person completes me, or oh, we're 2 halves, we come together, I'm very much a proponent of, I think you need to be a whole person, and then you can get another whole person, then you can come together and create whatever you're going to create. And I know sometimes people don't really, when they say it, they don't really mean it necessarily, but I just try to be careful with my words. And when I hear people say, oh, I was a half, and then my other half, or, you know, you complete me, I never have liked that verbiage. So right away that kind of like, grabbed me in and was like, I'm going to read this book. So really just lots of wisdom passed down. Whoopi has obviously her own history, a full life of experiences. And I think with books like this, or any type of books that are kind of like advice-ish, there's going to be things you agree with, there's going to be things you don't agree with. And it's kind of just a book you read, you can digest, you can maybe take pieces that you like from it. And that certainly is kind of what I did. And overall, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. Like I said, it was a book I read in maybe like a day and a half. It's not too long. And it's a good, I guess, relationship type book. And I'd recommend it if you have any interest in that at all. The next book I read was The Three Mothers, How the Mothers of Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and James Baldwin Shaped the Nation by Anna Malika Tubbs. This book was a book recommended to me in my book club by one of the book club members. This was the book we read for May. And before I give my thoughts on it, let me give, which I guess you can see my rating already, but I'll give my thoughts in a little bit. Here's the synopsis on it first. New York Times bestseller, this dynamic blend of biography and manifesto centers on Louise Little, Alberta King, and Bertus Baldwin. Tubbs' book stands against the women's erasure, a monument to their historical importance. Tubbs' connection to these women is palpable on the page as both a mother and a scholar of the impact Black motherhood has had on America. Through Tubbs' writing, Bertus, Alberta, and Louise's stories sing. There is a story forgotten that begs to be told, and Tubbs tells it brilliantly. Bertus Baldwin, Alberta King, and Louise Little were all born at the beginning of the 20th century and forced to contend with the prejudices of Jim Crow as Black women. These three extraordinary women passed their knowledge to their children with the hope of helping them to survive in a society that would deny their humanity from the very beginning. From Louise teaching her children about their activist roots, to Berta's encouraging James to express himself through writing, to Alberta basing all of her lessons in faith and social justice. These women used their strength and motherhood to push their children towards greatness, all with a conviction that every human being deserves dignity and respect despite the rampant discrimination they faced. These three mothers taught resistance and a fundamental belief in the worth of Black people to their sons, even when these beliefs flew in the face of America's racist practices and led to ramifications for all three families' safety. The fight for equal justice and dignity came above all else for the three mothers. These women, their similarities and differences as individuals and mothers, represent a piece of history left untold and the celebration of Black motherhood long overdue. So from that synopsis, from that title, The Three Mothers, I think me reading that just now, you probably would think, oh, this is a book about Louise, Alberta, and Bertus, right? Because, and it's connected to their sons, obviously their famous sons, but that title gave you that synopsis gave you that. The introduction was a little bit lengthy in my opinion, and it gave you that. But to my surprise, the book was not about the three mothers. Not really anyway. They were more of a through line through the story rather than the center, which is kind of how it was presented. I'm in between giving it, or I gave it, I don't really go back, but I was in between giving it a 2.5 to 3 stars. I'm going to just read my little synopsis / review on it. I wrote this about a month ago, and I'd rather just read it off, what I said, because I probably will get it better than me trying to remember what I was feeling about it when I read it. So, like I said, I'm between a 2.5 and 3 stars. The book is more about the surroundings of the three mothers rather than the three mothers themselves. The book just wasn't actually what Tubbs said what Tubbs said she was writing about. Not even taken from the title, but throughout the book, Tubbs kept mentioning how the book is about Louise, Alberta, and Bertus, yet the book did not portray that at all. In the conclusion, Tubbs stopped talking about her own experiences because, as she puts it, the book is about the three mothers, but just a mere 6 pages later, she was talking about other people again, similar to how the whole book was. I know there's only so much to piece together about these women, and I think the author did her best, lots of speculation it seems, to try to weave together these women as they are a through line in the book, but certainly not the center. This was more of a retelling of civil rights history, so it's an important topic we should all read and learn about, but again, it's not what it was advertised. This is a review from someone else on Goodreads that I saw and I liked, so inserting this here. Her name is Zuri, and I said it's echoed everything that I've saw and said above. So this book definitely has an interesting premise, but I don't think Tubbs is really apt to write it. I actually don't know if anyone would be apt to write it because there just isn't enough information about these three women. There weren't many primary sources like their own journals or letters, so it seemed like a lot of speculation. Obviously, these three mothers were very influential to their iconic sons, but it was very much just listening to the civil rights history that I had already knew about and a line about their mother probably supporting them through this. I was underwhelmed. Back to my words to end last little couple sentences here. I'd add to this that in speaking to my sister about this book, she said that Tubbs maybe should have written an article, a scholarly article even, because then she could have done what she said she was going to do better. Since there is so little information and it's mostly speculation, that we have to go off of. A whole book wasn't needed if you actually wanted to center these three mothers. So all that is to say, I think overall, like I said earlier, it was, for me, felt like more like a civil rights retelling, and a lot of the things I knew already, which, like I said, is fine because civil rights, the American Civil Rights Movement is something important to read about, and these three men are certainly important figures that we should read and know about, as are their mothers. But my issue was this is supposed to be about the three mothers. And it's one thing to say the title can be something to maybe pull you in, but if the book was saying something different, then I would be like, okay, it was just maybe like one of those bring you in titles. But the book, as I gave a couple examples there, kept saying, oh, it's about them, but then it kept moving away from them, and we really weren't grabbing too much on them. And part of it is there's really not much documentation on the women, and that's just kind of like the circumstances of the time, unfortunately. But that's why how do women better to have like a good 20-30 pages focused on them rather than pulling it out to almost a 300-page book. That was just my frustrations with it, and that's kind of why I was kind of just like, I really didn't I wouldn't say I wouldn't recommend it, but I would probably recommend it to the level, but I would say don't expect to read about or learn about the three mothers as is advertised. And the author's going to probably keep saying that it's about them, but it really is not when you actually dig into it. So that was disappointing. We had a nice conversation about this in our book club. Some people liked the book and some people didn't. Agreed in terms of the mothers not being the center of the story. But overall, like I said, I would recommend it still, but I probably would just be like, heads up, don't expect to learn about the mothers that much. There's a couple little bits and bobs in there, but overall, like I said, it could have been a 20, 30 page scholarly article, as my sister kind of put it, to focus on them. So that is the three mothers. Like I said, between 2 out of 5 and 3 stars out of 5. So not horrible, but not great. Okay, the final book I read in May of 2024 is The House at Pooh Corner by A.A. Milne. And it is Winnie the Pooh #2. I will give a little synopsis. Most of you probably know Winnie the Pooh, but if you don't, here's a synopsis anyways. The House at Pooh Corner is the 1928 children's book by A.A. Milne and illustrated by E.H. Shepard. The book is the second novel and the final one by Milne to feature Winnie the Pooh and his world. The book is also notable for introducing the character Tigger. So this book, Winnie the Pooh, as many children, I grew up, watching and loving Winnie the Pooh, and I'd never read the books. Beginning of last year, the very first book I read last year was it last year or the year before? I don't remember, but the very first book, I think it was last year. Yeah, the very first book I read last year was Winnie the Pooh, the first Winnie the Pooh, and it was excellent. It was everything I would have hoped it to be. It was just, illustrations are amazing. I remember I had it physical, but the illustrations were black and white, but I also got it on Kindle, so I was able to have the color that they kind of added to it later as well. And Winnie the Pooh was just everything you hoped it to be. I remember I was just like so happy to read it, and it was just great. Read that first time last year, great. I think I knew there was a second book, but I didn't fully know. But I came to this book because I saw a clip of an interview from Gabriel Maté recently, and he was talking about the end of Winnie the Pooh. And he was talking about how he regrets not taking as much time to play, and how, the last line of Winnie the Pooh always made him so sad because he always was so focused on working and not taking time with his family and, having, play in his life essentially. And he said that this last line in Winnie the Pooh brought tears to his eyes for many years, and it is. But wherever they go and whatever happens to them on the way, in that enchanted place on the top of the forest, a little boy and his bear will always be playing. So I was listening to this clip, and he went on to talk about how people always sacrifice, their playfulness, their joyfulness by being driven by things like success and things like that. But we have to remember that joy and play are so important. So when I was listening to it, I was like, oh, that's, so wonderful. Then I was like, I don't remember that line at the end of Winnie the Pooh. So I looked up the line, and I saw it wasn't I had the book still, so I looked at the line, and I saw it wasn't at the end of Winnie the Pooh. So I typed in the line to Google, and it said at the end of House at Pooh Corner, which is Winnie the Pooh 2. And I said, oh, I haven't read the second Winnie the Pooh. So I went and grabbed the second Winnie the Pooh, and I read it in, I think, a day and a half. Again, it's a very short book. And I was able to finally, get that last line, which he says, a little boy and his bear will always be playing. And just like the first one, like I said, is everything kind of would hope it to be. As you can see, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Illustrations are wonderful. It's just like a magical book, and it's just so heartwarming. It's sweet and adventurous, funny. Like I said, the direction of Tigger's in this one, which I guess I didn't connect when I read the first one. I noticed Tigger wasn't there, but I was kind of thinking maybe Tigger came later in terms of the movies or things like that. But yeah, so it's just a lovely read, and as I said, I will stop by the 100 Acre Woods anytime, any place, and it's just an excellent book and a great book to end May on. So yeah, those are the 3 books I read in May of 2024. At this point, I've read 2 books so far in June. As I'm recording this, it's June 14th. So I've read 2 books so far. I have 2 more I'm hoping to get through by the end of this month. I have to get through one of them for my book club, but that is where I'm at right now. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, any book recommendations, please drop them below. I'm always accepting recommendations. Always, always, always. Have you read any of these books before? Do you have any thoughts about the books? If you have read them, drop them below. All that type of stuff. We'll have a dialogue underneath if that's what you want. And as always, as I always say, I appreciate you guys so much for clicking in and watching me talk about all types of topics. This one was books today. So we appreciate it, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.